Hi, my name is Hampus Bellander and I'm responsible for Concept's water treatment solution from the technical side at Adven.
And my name is Madeleine Vikström and I work as a concept engineer at Adven in the water treatment team.
And together we are part of a team that designs different kinds of water treatments for more or less all different kinds of industries there are out there. Everything from dairies to waste incineration plants to mining industry and everything in between.
What I think is really interesting with our team is the really broad knowledge that we have and the experts we have within the team. We have experts within both inorganic and organic water treatment, including everything from flue gas condensation to nutrients reduction and heavy metal removal, to biogas production and anaerobic treatment.
I mean, open the tap, there comes water, and you expect it to be there, and it's there every time, and of the correct quality, just in time, and it's been that forever, more or less. And that is, to some extent, problematic. I mean, it's very nice. We have a really nice situation, but the changes that are coming and the problems with both the climate, of course, but also, for example, infrastructure that isn't really, I mean, it's not in this, it doesn't have the standard to handle the future problems. So I think we need to understand also in the Nordics that we will have more problems with water in the future. We cannot rely on it in the same way. We need to have safety measures. We need to have more redundancy when it comes to water. It's sad, but I think it's true.
Yeah, and we do see an increasing resource shortage and also tightening environmental regulations. They're coming quite fast.
Yep.
And also we have the rising need for sustainability with the climate crisis and everything. And water treatment is so connected to those questions.
Yeah.
So
both our availability to the industry, but also, of course, how the industry affects the environment. So it's quite important to make sure that, I mean, a lot of plants take care of what they release and that they release it in a safe manner.
yeah. And just connected to that specific effluent, we at Adven is working with a really interesting technology called BPED, where we can reuse that sulfur and sulfate.
Yeah, I think
Reuse that sulfate.
I think often it's important to try and the best solution often, both for making the availability of water safer, making the quality more reliable, and also minimizing how the industry affects the surroundings is, of course, by trying to tighten the system around the industry. And there are several ways of doing that. I mean, both when it comes to water and different kinds of chemicals, etc. And as you mentioned, BPED is one of them, where we can recover sulfates from wastewater and sodium for wastewater and reuse them as chemicals, sodium hydroxide and sulfuric acid, into the production, which is fantastic. But it's also true, for example, when we recover nutrients from wastewaters and when we look at different kinds of water where we, for example, can reuse ammonia as NCR chemicals, etc. I mean, when you have the possibility of reusing what you already have, it might be quite expensive, but it's also very, very good to be able to do it.
It does lead to cost savings as well when you can reuse. You don't have to buy new chemicals. You can reuse the ones in your effluent, but of course it is connected to cost.
And sometimes it's not even cost savings. It might even be a cost, but then when you compare it to the risk, if you're affected by, for example, water shortages, if there's or a surplus of water. For example, if it rains a lot and a lot of things goes into the local water, and if you reuse your own water, the water that you will need to take in will affect your process less. So by reusing it, you don't affect the environment as much, but also the environment won't affect you as much. So in a way, it's both good for the environment and the production at the same time. So just to try and understand that risk and minimize that risk might actually be, I mean, if you compare it to the cost of the water as it is today, it might be expensive. But if you compare it to the production, it's actually quite cheap to work with it.
So you can say that we are experts in understanding processes and finding optimal solutions for water
I think so. I think that's the sweet spot for us, actually, to understand each system component, but being really good in putting them together. And not only water treatment system, but also understanding process-related issues. And there, of course, we can get help from our colleagues from the energy and processing departments. I think, for example, as an example, in a dairy where we are creating milk powder, helping with creating milk powder, it's a very good way of removing water from milk. Of course, it's not only by evaporating it, because it's very expensive. You can also, of course, use membrane technology, that is known technology, and much more energy effective. But if you use that, it does not only make it better, and more energy. It doesn't not only save energy, it also makes it possible to reuse water, because the water that will come out there is extremely clean, especially if you compare it to condensate from different evaporators. So then it makes it possible to use water in different kinds of processes that you couldn't use the water before. So instead of having one type of treatment, you can have several systems relying on one system, which is fantastic. Because if you buy water today, you might take it from a well or something. It's extremely cheap, and it's readily available in so many ways. Fantastic. But then also problems occur, and there's a lot of costs connected to the water that you don't really see directly. And it can be everything from quality, especially nowadays when the variations in weather is quite extreme, to be fair. And if there's a lot of water, a lot of rain suddenly, that might affect the water in the rivers and the lakes and affect the quality in such a way that it will affect your production. And the cost of that is very difficult to predict and understand. But if a thing like that happens, and it have happened several times, it's a lot of stories about pulp mills that have to close for weeks, etc., due to that they couldn't treat the water enough, so it actually affected the production. The cost for that is so huge, and they never look into that and understand that. And it's everything from pulp mills to nuclear power stations to different kinds of processing industries where they need cooling water, the water is too hot, etc. It's interesting that no one seems to take that cost into account when they design a water treatments.
Yeah, so maybe we should stop seeing water treatment as a cost and rather see it as often a saving, as we can prolong the lifetime of the process equipment, and we also avoid production stops that are very very expensive often. And also we can increase the capacity limit of the process so that we can have a bigger...
The water is an enabler of production, more or less, and directly connected to the production, actually.
We have a lot of experience.
Yeah, I think so. It's still getting better and better over the years, and we get more and more personnel over the years, and we build our experience with every plant, which also is fantastic. And also, we build our network with both consultants that we use, but also, companies that we discuss things with, discuss solutions with, and different kinds of service providers. So I think we have a really good situation when we are looking at new types of treatments. For example, how we can utilize, since we have so many plants, I think we have roughly 200 water treatment plants today. So if we want to buy, for example, membranes, we can go directly to the supplier and typically get a much better price than what a normal company could get. And of course, in the end, that's one type of value add. We tend to try and deliver many value adds, but that is one of them.
So one value add is the experience we get from our plants and from the knowledge we have within the team.
I think the really huge value add is actually the pipeline. I mean, since we have so many plants, we can go there, visit them, check them out, talk to our operators. I mean, is it something you would like to change? And if there is something to change, I mean, we can do it. We can make every plant better. So it's not that we deliver a plant and it's the end of it. I mean, we have the whole responsibility from, I mean, when it's built and start to deliver all the way to the whole lifetime of the plant. And we can improve it over the whole time, which is fantastic. And that is also something our customers tend to forget, that of course water treatment can be tricky, but when they use us, I mean, we guarantee the function. And that means, I mean, if they sign a deal with us, more or less they have, I mean, 100% guarantee to get the water through the whole lifetime of the plant. And with the networks of experts that not only within Adven, of course, but also, I mean, just outside within our surrounding, it's very nice to be able to grow with the network. I mean, both grow my personal network, but also help our, I mean, the one we cooperate with, and help them to grow as well. And I think this whole ecosystem of companies, it's a fantastic way of understanding new technologies as well. So what we can do, that I think quite few do actually, is that we take technologies that are known, that is working very well, and there are several suppliers of, but we can put them in new systems, in new environments with new types of water. So, for example, reverse osmosis for desalination, I mean, it's used everywhere, but maybe using that in some other area is something people don't do in the same way. I think, for example, condensate treatment from evaporation, to treat that with membrane technology can be tricky due to biological growth, etc., depending on the condensate qualities. But since we have both the pilot, we have the evaporators, we have condensate, a lot of different condensates, we have the possibility of I mean, fixing that solution already now. And that is, I mean, both treating the condensate so it doesn't affect the environment, but also be able to reuse the water for example, cooling water or CIP water. It's fantastic. We are in a really bad situation in Sweden, unfortunately. Okay, I'm smiling. It's maybe not the best subject to smile towards, but we are lacking a lot of investments, and we are way behind on these investments. And it looks like now the cost will increase, or will have to increase. I think it's fair to say that they need to increase, and it looks like they will increase by in the range of 100 to 500% without a problem. So I mean, water that have been quite cheap in Scandinavia, I mean, in the range of maybe €2 per cubic meter, will probably cost more than 10 euros in the future. And still, it might not be so much for fresh water, but still, I mean, it's a huge difference from today. And that will affect a lot of customers. A lot of industries will be heavily affected by that fact.
And that's something we work with too, with both reusage within the system and also resource minimization, so that they don't have to use as much water.
Yeah, I mean, if they don't need to use the water, they shouldn't really, because it's not like an endless resource. And a lot of industries are quite close to municipalities, and of course, if they use water, the city might not be possible to use as much. So also this I mean, competition between different systems, who can use the water and for what. So it's extremely important to understand how the whole system can utilize this resource as effective as possible. And it might also be so that, I mean, some industries are more or less producing water. For example, dairies that we talked about before. I mean, especially the milk powder factories. I mean, they bring in milk, they evaporate the water from the milk, and then they have a powder left. So in a way, it's actually a water production unit. And to combine that with other industries that require water is extremely important. For example, breweries. I mean, that they take dry things into the process and they brew beer with water, so they need to bring water. They bottle the water and they send the water away. So they are local consumers of water. So it's also extremely important to see this in the whole system, how to utilize the water as good as possible. And that is something that can be difficult between industries that we have looked into several times, to be the partner that actually can help a whole system. We can be the one that takes water from one industry and helps to use it in another industry. And since we have the different agreements with the different partners, it's much easier for them, and we can join more partners so they only have agreements with us instead of that everyone should have an agreement with each other. The good thing for us is that typically we are only building the plants for ourselves. That of course means that you never leave a plant, and for good or bad, I mean, if you create something that doesn't work, you need to fix it, and you have all the time to fix it, but you will need to fix it. On the other hand, I mean, when it works great, you can go there and check it up, you can take data from it, and we can reuse all the good stuff. So it's a fantastic way of understanding what works and what doesn't work, and also to talk with the different workers on site, operators on site, to create the best solution, not only for design and, I mean, cutting costs there, but instead of creating the best solution over a lifespan with the indicators they need to actually perform in the best way, supporting them so they feel that they have someone have their back of actually creating the best system. And that also feeds back to us, where we can take that information and improve every system we make, which feels fantastic. Both on a personal level, because I can improve, I can see what actually works, and it builds my confidence of seeing what works and what doesn't, so I can improve. But it's also quite interesting to see it. And I think when we work with our customers, I think we can have this perspective always, which means that we try to create a system that brings the most value. And of course we're paid. I mean, everyone is paid. And we also need money for our services. But since we are looking at a system from a more longer perspective, we can allow longer return of investments, etc. We can design it in another way that makes it much more efficient over time. We don't use as much chemicals. We don't use too much electricity. We can have bigger pipes. We can have better heat exchangers. We can have, for example, increase the temperatures in water to reduce the flocculant need, etc. And in a way that not consultants can do and not suppliers can do, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I think a big advantage by working with Adven too is that we often see that the broad, holistic perspective we take over the entire process of the customer, and the broad knowledge we have within the entire concept team, not only the water team, but also the process and energy team, we can find solutions that maybe isn't really what the customer asked for, but is a much more efficient and more cost-efficient solution. Take, for example, one project where a customer came to us and wanted to treat their water of very diluted substances, and just by changing a little thing in their cooling system, we could concentrate it much more and give a much cheaper water treatment.
Yeah, and actually more effective at the same time. So we managed to treat the water more and at the same time lower the cost. And actually in that case, I mean, together with processing solutions, we managed to actually get a payback time of the whole process, which is fairly nice. Not very common, but very nice. A lot of industries want to do investments if they have a payoff time, a return of investment of roughly up to 3 years, sometimes 2 years. And with a case like that, it can be difficult to help our customers because it's so profitable that they would like to do it themselves. However, with our business model, it's actually possible to have longer return of investments, and it's still something that would give our customers money. So I think our sweet spot is actually when an investment have a return of investment between maybe 3 up to even 6 years. Because then it's so expensive that the customer would never do it themselves. But with our business model, it would actually be something that is profitable. One of the fantastic things we do at Adven is, since we have so many projects ongoing, is of course the possibility of pilot things and test things. Not that we have our own lab, because I mean there's plenty of companies out there that can help us with that. But of course sometimes water change over time. It can change a lot. So often you want to test it over the seasons to understand the differences, especially if you are working with raw water. I mean, it will be affected a lot. So to have the opportunity of having our own membrane pilot, our own container that we can run to customers and test water and actually see how it works, not only for ourselves, but also for showing the customer what can happen, how it can look, and what could it be with it? What can we do with it? It's extremely good both for us and for the customer, and it also helps us design a lot of water treatments. And especially since we have everything from pilot evaporation plants to membrane containers, we have stripper units that we can utilize. We can actually create a full-scale plant more or less, or a whole product train with different kinds of treatment and complete the whole treatment on site on pilot scale. We need to work more and more with water. Both to make sure that we actually can survive. An industry that doesn't work with water will have a lot of problems in the near future. So I think it's really important for everyone to start to work with water. And of course it can be difficult. There's a lot of sides to it and a lot of dynamics. And then you can use a company like us, like Adven, and discuss how to see a problem and how to work with this. But it is tricky for every industry out there to work with it alone.
It is. Because solely for the industry, they need to ensure stable production. So they need a reliable water supply, which often implies water treatment. But they also have to think about the wastewater so that they can comply with the environmental regulations and produce at the capacity that they should or that they can.
Yeah, and with bigger variations in both supply and also in the water body that you release water to. If there's less water in the water body you send your water to, there's a bigger risk that you actually will affect it with your wastewater. So I think the whole idea of utilizing water without affecting the environment or without the environment affecting you, it's really difficult. You really need to work with water.
And we do see an increased pressure on companies to act and to work with water because of the climate change and because of the stricter regulations. And now companies want to reduce their environmental footprint.
And I think that it's actually a funny picture of the whole is that since, in a way, Scandinavia and the Nordics, we are a little bit behind here. Big parts of the whole earth know this, and it's true for more or less all countries without small Scandinavia in a way, because we have water available in such means, so it's so easy. But for example, when global companies want to work here and have industries here, typically they need to work with water as well, since from a PR perspective, if you're going to sell something in a country where there's a water shortage, it can be extremely important to show that you work with water. So even if the industry is located in, for example, Sweden or Finland, you need to make sure your footprint is minimized anyway.
We need to work with water because of the environmental footprint, because of the climate change, because of the environmental regulations, to ensure that we have that we treat our equipment well, that we prolong the lifetime of that, which also reduces not only the cost but also the environmental footprint.
Yeah. Do you feel that you can make a difference when you're working with water at Adven?
I do. I really see that the project that we work with has a really big environmental impact. A positive one, of course. But
and how do you see working with the colleagues? It's quite a nice team. I feel the team is very nice, but of course I'm been here from the beginning with water treatments at Adven. But from your perspective, how do you see it?
it's super inspiring to work with such experienced and talented people that are such experts at their field, and we really at Adven we really have this climate where we share knowledge. So we try to take the best out of everyone and also give the best out of everyone, which I really think creates really great projects and really great results.
And now you're working with, designing some plants and helping with, pin IDs and material balances and a lot of documents connected to that, drawings, etc. But last year you worked with commissioning and starting a plant up. How do you see the differences between those two?
It's a huge resemblance because of you need hands-on experience to design a well-functioning plant. If I would have gone just out from university and started trying to design plants, you have to think about everything, the operational functioning part. You have to think about the maintenance, that it should be easy access. How do you dose chemicals? How do you mix the chemicals into the flow? Where do you put valves? So there is a big resemblance, but I think that the difference between them is that during commissioning it's more concentrated to one problem at a time, or maybe 5 or 10 problems at a time. But during the design phase, you have to think about all of the problems at once and try to do so that they don't appear.
Yeah, and I think it can be interesting also during commissioning how a small problem can be difficult to solve or very expensive to solve, but at the drawing table already before in the beginning, it's just a pen strike and everything is solved. So it's so interesting that when you see a problem, if you can take it to you and just remember it for the next project, it gets so much better, so much quicker. And that's just through one person doing both.
And that's a benefit of Adven, as we keep our plants and we keep the operation and maintenance within the company. We always keep the learnings within the company and teach ourselves how to make our processes better.